How you doing, guys? This is Eric from rulethewasteland.com and secretoftheinternet.com. So tonight is the next Super Tuesday where there's multiple states in New England having their Republican presidential primaries. Donald Trump has huge leads in pretty much all the states. The most important of these is Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is unique in that only something like 14 or 15 of their many, somewhere in like the 50 to 70 range, I'm not sure, delegates are awarded to the outright winner of the state. And then the rest of them are by congressional district, but you have to vote on the delegates themselves by name. So it's a little more complicated. If you don't have an idea already going in of who these delegates supposedly are supporting or have like some sort of cheat sheet with you, then it's going to be really difficult to know who you're essentially supporting because it doesn't have the candidates' names, it has the names of the delegates. You have to know who they are pledged or allegedly supporting. Now, we still expect, even though Cruz has shown his campaign to be more involved in the actual delegate process of like selecting the delegates and stuff like that, there's no necessarily reason to think that his supporters will be any more versed in knowing or choosing the delegates than Trump voters. So we shouldn't see necessarily a huge divide there. I'm sure he sent out some mailers and stuff like that. Another interesting Cruz development is he's showing his weakness in a desperate attempt to stop Trump from getting to the 1237 by making this weird alliance with Kasich, where he said that if Kasich tells his supporters to vote for Cruz in certain states, Cruz will tell his supporters to vote for Kasich in certain states, or just to stop. The deal was they would stop spending money in those states so that they would have a much better chance of coming in as a very solid second or maybe even first and knocking out Trump as opposed to splitting amongst themselves. But this supposed desperation deal fell apart almost instantly when both candidates were caught telling their supporters, like in Kasich in an interview, he was like, well, I didn't tell my people not to vote for me. And then Cruz actually sent out a mailer to his people explicitly saying like, hey, I don't care what you heard, still vote for me. So he's proven himself to be a lying snake once again. And the interesting thing is I've said repeatedly, I think in one of my videos here as well, but certainly in person to many people, that we'll get like Cruz supposedly being this anti-establishment person, we'll get to see, because when it gets to the point where he is mathematically incapable of getting the necessary delegates, if he still stays in the race, and this is someone who's specifically said, you can find the quote when he's talking about Kasich and others, that once you've gotten to the point where you mathematically can't get the required delegates, that you should drop out of the race. Ted Cruz said that. And so we'll see. I mean, he's not going to follow his own advice. And it's just going to prove that he's not just doing this because he really thinks he can win. He's doing it also as an establishment person to stop Trump, because he's making these deals with Kasich that don't necessarily help him. They're specifically designed just to hurt Trump. So that totally puts to bed this idea that he's this great anti-establishment person. And I've said this all along. They may not like him, but they own him, which is actually, I believe, Fox Day is credited with that quote. Bill Still had a very interesting video upcoming on the upcoming elections, where he actually has called the entire election for Trump already. He says, book it. Trump will be the next president of the United States. He said the momentum is huge. Hillary's not going to be able to stop him, which I also agree with, if she even makes it to November. There's already a poll coming out that shows Donald Trump and Hillary neck and neck in a national poll. And as he said, he hasn't even started on her yet. He started in a field of 16 people, was knocking them down one by one. He hasn't even dealt with her yet. To think that her frail, coughing body and all these scandals are going to be able to stand up to his withering attacks is just, give me a break. It's not going to happen. And the momentum is fully in his favor. He won New York in a massive landslide. He's headed into a bunch more states in the same area that have almost equal levels of support for him. It should be a good night.